So we are back, and we have a very exciting name of the keynote. 9 hiring mistakes in hiring that we've all made at some point. Well, first of all, I've never hired anyone, but it does really sound very, very intriguing. So let's welcome on stage Katarzyna Korytko, Head of Talent at HR Hints and Cultivari. Katarzyna, welcome on stage.
Hello and welcome. Nice to see some faces. I know that the weather is not is so nice and pleasant, and you decided to be here, so I highly appreciate that. Yes, hiring mistakes we've all made at some point. Well, the first question I've got for you is just a simple question. Who among you has ever recruited in your life? Just raise your hand. Great, I can see some hands. Very well. So next question, just a small little one. Who think that did it well, the recruitment process as such? Like, who did it well? I did. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, some hands, which is still great. So actually, 85, like the average of people who are satisfied with the recruitment process at the beginning of their adventure with recruiting is 83 to 85. This is what research says, and this is also my observation, taking into account that I had a chance to collaborate with many different hiring managers. And surprisingly, this number goes down once we start to make some mistakes. It's like in case of learning curve, that at the beginning we are fine, we are good, then we make some mistakes, and our level of satisfaction, and of course, decreases. But then after a while, you know, with experience gained, we just get this balance, and then we are fine to go. Actually, I made some mistake as well. It's obvious, like everyone. So my name is Kasia Korytko. I'm Head of Talent in HR Hints. And I've been supporting CEOs, hiring managers, panelists who also made some mistakes. That's why I'm here, just because I saw many of them. Together with my team, we supported more than 80 companies, more than 80 startups, scale-ups, and fast-growing companies throughout throughout 2 years of cooperation. We built from scratch many tech teams, so starting from 20 people, we were able to hire up to 200 people. So, any problem? Thank you very much. It's so nice to be treated so well. I was saying about my team, my brilliant team. Together with the team, we are able to hire not only great tech individuals, but also C-level and senior tech whenever you need, actually. And our average time to hire is 19 days. Our first 3 candidates we actually present to our managers are being selected and hired, and this is like the case of 90% of candidates we present. That's a huge one. We also created a scalable method, you know, to be able to create and build not only sustainable but also well-performing teams, tech teams, but not only tech teams. So, well, what guarantees this success? To answer this question, just look at this picture. What can you see? I don't see any dancers. Okay, thank you, dancers. Anyone else? Skull, exactly. Well done. So from one point of view, you would say that, yeah, you can see a human skull, which is, of course, a good answer. Second person, someone else would say that sees 2 dancers, actually a real view of 2 dancers playing cards, and both are right. And that's a great metaphor of HR Hints, because from one hand side, we support our managers, we hire together with them in-house, you know, for their companies and for their teams. But on the other side, we are external advisors. So we spot mistakes which happen. we are able to just resolve the issues which comes, and of course correct mistakes which happens easily, because we made it with over 80 companies already. So now I would like to ask you for one simple favor, just to take 3. Just take with you 3 takeaways. It's up to you. You can choose whatever you want to. I really hope that you will be able, after this presentation, to actually point at least 3 mistakes or 3 takeaways. Now, imagine a red sweater. Do you have it? Just not if you have, like, in your mind, red sweater. I see some nodding, yeah? Okay. So did you think about this sweater? Not really, okay. Well, so this is actually the metaphor of a candidate. How come? Just because managers, hiring managers, we go to the shop and we ask our shop assistant for help. I want to buy red jumper. And the fact is that shop assistant, so recruiter in brackets, has like no bloody idea how this sweater should look like, but we do. So what we should do? We should start with, or recruiter should help you to define who are you looking for. That's actually something which is not so obvious. And I can tell you that 90% of hiring managers at the beginning of their adventure with recruiting, well, make this mistake and don't really know, don't really realize who they are looking for. And they often say, well, show me some candidates, like 3 to 5 profiles, and I will tell you who I'm looking for. The truth is that job market will not tell you who you are looking for. It's actually you. So you need to do this lesson. You need to start with, a couple of minutes to think, like, who do I really need? Then once defined, you then go to the shop and you precise that you want to buy a jumper with 3 pink stars, with 4 black buttons, with some small little designs, black ones on the sleeves as well. And then the whole magic starts. So tell me, in your opinion, once we've got this statement that we need to define the whole candidate's profile. So how long do you think it takes in average to just define a candidate for senior level or C-level positions? Like, how much time in general hiring managers spend on that? Any thoughts? Would be great, but not really. And they are not even close to that. Any other thoughts? 2 weeks. All right. So the answer is 30 minutes. Is it enough? Well, not really, if we take into consideration that if you are a manager and you would like to make sure that your company goes well, you just implement a strategy, in order to implement some actions or some product into your organization. The same way with a marketing campaign. Would you agree to start a marketing campaign without a proper marketing plan? Not really. And yet we do that in the recruitment. But that's okay. Well, it's just to show you how it goes on average. What is important is just to make sure to find this time. I know that we are all busy. I'm also hiring manager, so I know that it's so difficult to find time for this. But trust me, if you just are not able to find like even 30 minutes right now, you will spend more in the second part, meaning, well, like interviewing not much candidates, spending time, money, and being tired and frustrated just because of it. So instead, just take this time, from the second part. So meaning these interviews which don't really make sense, and just put it here to define the candidate. And yet, yeah, we are done with defining candidate. So now, the question to you. Have you ever seen ex-Google employees, like profiles in your recruitment processes or whenever, like, did you see a nice ex-Google candidates applying for to your organization? Not really. Would you like to have them in your organization? Yes, the profiles are impressive, aren't they? You know what? It's also related to halo effect. It's a kind of bias. So it's a cognitive bias, basically, in which our overall impression on a person influences the way we feel and think about their character. We unfairly attribute values and like additional competences about a candidate just because he or she went to a certain school or, for example, worked in Google. And that's, okay, maybe they are good. Maybe we've got some people working for Google here. That's fine. What I'm saying is that for a startup, which is just in this section of growth, in this moment where we need someone who will be able to take care of everything, of all cake, do we really need someone from the big corporation while this person takes care, this potential candidate, who takes care only of a piece of cake in Google? That's the question. So we know we know already that there is such a halo effect which appears in the recruitment process. So now, actually, I recall one great example of this halo effect. Well, recently we were hiring for a successful startup, and we had such a great candidate who had experience. Well, I would say that he was even overqualified because he was such a great candidate. He didn't receive this job. Do you know why? Just because his hobby was gardening, and the hiring manager who just understood that the main hobby, the main thing that this person would like to do in his spare time was to just pick up some strawberries from his field. And well, first of all, the manager didn't like this idea because he thought that, well, startup environment, we are fast and someone is just taking care of gardening. That doesn't make sense. And secondly, he was allergic to strawberries and he hated them. Well, all right. So actually, I've got another example in my mind of this halo effect. Did you happen to have a candidate who came to the interview? He was so confident, and you knew that he is going to be a good candidate, like a good match. Apparently, we have this tendency to think that if someone is confident, if someone is good looking, this person needs to be competent, but also, well, this person will be for sure a good match, and he will be professional. The truth is that it's once again this halo effect. To make sure that we are not gonna make this mistake, we need to be more open. We need to just make sure that we will challenge ourselves, that we will ask ourselves the question to not make this mistake in the next recruitment processes. Once we are done with this is something which is not really, well, you might ask why references can be a mistake. Well, references, it's an additional, of course, check, which seems to be unnecessary in case if you've got a great match, a great candidate who is just about to start in your company. But the point is that this reference check may give you some red flags, may give you some additional information. So it's a source of information for hiring managers, but also for recruiters. Why shouldn't we use this knowledge if we just take it from anyone, from ex-manager, from colleagues? It's not a big deal, to just obtain them. But we don't do that, and because of that, we may lose not only our reputation, we may not lose a lot of money, but also our time. We had such a situation recently that a great match, well, the candidate, we were looking for him like for months, really, well, months, like two months, but for us it's months because our time to offer is also quite a short one. But the candidate appeared just perfect. And you know what happened finally? We'll decided together with hiring manager to take those references. And it appeared that the manager was not, the ex-manager of this candidate was not happy. Like, yeah, well, you know, he was doing some job, but I'm not sure. And after a couple of questions, it appeared that this candidate was a scammer. We just started to deep dive, and thanks to that, we didn't hire a candidate who potentially had, like others, was just hired in other companies. Well, talking about references, it's not that you just gather written references, or you just call this manager, his ex-manager of your candidate, and it's gonna be fine. No, you need to make sure that you will not ask surface questions. What would you say if someone is contacting you saying, okay, what do you think about Joe? Was he a good employee? Well, most of people I know at least would say, yes, he was okay, but doesn't mean this doesn't mean anything. Whilst in case if you just start to ask some quality in-depth questions, like in which environment Joe wouldn't be able to work and why, then you start the conversation and you realize whether this is a match for you or not. So there is also a good news for hiring managers. You don't need to ask or you don't need to obtain such references. It's purely job of your experienced recruiters, agencies, or headhunters. It's up to you, but for sure they would be able to not only help you with that, but also to solve any kind of doubts you may have about this candidate. As we don't have time, the time bias appears. And with this time bias, I've got also a question. Do you think that it can be a recruitment mistake? For sure, yes. So the question is, how much time does the ideal recruitment process last, in your opinion, like the ideal one? Any ideas? 1 month, okay? Should be, yes. But the answer to that is that the length of recruitment process has nothing to do with its effectiveness. But it has to do a lot with candidates' availability, especially in the tech area. Just because they won't wait for you for 1 month or for 3 weeks. And one more thing, what actually I do as hiring manager, but also as recruiter, I always plan in advance this recruitment process. So making sure that it's well planned from A to Z, that each person knows which competences needs to be checked during the interview, will just help us to make sure that it's efficient. We'll not lose time on discussions about strawberry fields or about windsurfing. No, we just purely concentrate on what is important, and hence we obtain such results. So that's pretty much about effectiveness. So now another question. So any ideas? Why did I put this mushroom? Well, in Polish we've got a saying, lepszy ryc niż nic, which can be translated into English to half of a loaf is better than none. What it has to do with recruitment? Our pure desperation. Well, we recruit, I know many cases where we as hiring managers, again, we are so tired with the recruitment process. We couldn't wait like some more time, and we just wanted to make sure that the work will not stack up, that we were overwhelmed, and we thought, all right, this candidate, he's not the best, but it's okay. It's going to be fine. The truth is that it's not. I've been there, done that. So as CEO, sometimes you need to hire ASAP, and you don't have time. But then you just need to be quite conscious of the fact that you will need to start, as you said, like instantly, because most probably if you don't check accordingly the candidate, you will need to just constantly search for new candidates. And one actually example which came to my mind was about once again my experience, where I decided to hire a person, for sure not a great match. We did that, and I can tell you that this is the one thing which I regret the most. Not only this candidate, well, my hire and my employee later on was not delivering anything, but it had such a big influence on. He had actually such a big influence on our team's morale that the team couldn't stand that, and people started to complain, and they also started to leave the organization. So we lost not only a couple of good employees because of him, but when we decided to fire him, it also appeared that he left all this job not done. So it gave us additional efforts to, and it cost us not only money, but also additional efforts to just clean everything after him. Well, I just mentioned about some costs, but how much do you think this bad recruitment can cost you? Like how much it takes? Like how much money, of course? Any ideas? I know that it's difficult. That's why I just put it here. Okay. I will not answer straight away, but anything else? Anyone else? That can be, yeah, more or less. So bad recruitment process can cost you up to 20 times of the candidate's salary. Can you imagine such an amount of money for spent on just someone who will not deliver? Of course, you know, up to means that we take into consideration alternative costs, like what the company could have actually earned if they had the right candidate, or onboarding cost, or salary of this candidate, or the motivation of the whole team, all the resignations which appears, or even, you know, the fact that well, we could have we couldn't even start to hire someone who would be great for this position just because it's already filled. So let's just remember that, you know, for such roles like C-level roles or senior roles, we cannot like straight away check whether the candidate is a good or not. So this is what happened to one of our clients who stated that, well, they weren't sure about this C-level candidate. They just gave them, they just gave him like a bit of time. A bit of time means 7 months, but they knew after 2 weeks' time that he was not a good match. Can you imagine this amount of money spent? And this case was in the UK, so additional money here. But the good news is the average time of bad recruitment is just the average is 9 times of the candidate's salary in case of bad recruitment. Not sure if it's such a good news, but better than 20. And what's more, like the next recruitment process is more successful in 70% cases. So anyway, it is of course worth to recruit, and it's worth to have someone who will just walk you through the recruitment process and just walk you through the recruitment traps, for sure. And last but not least, not unified process. Well, I know that when I start to say something about processes, you think, oh no, she's gonna do some talk about excellence or about like corporation speak, that in the corporations you've got the process aligned. Not at all. I'm not. It's nothing against corporations, but what I meant by this not unified process, and by process purely, it's just like the algorithms of activities. Why it's such a big problem? What's the big deal with that? So 1/3 of recruitment process is not unified, which is as a result actually that we don't have same standards. And well, if we don't have the same standards, it's equal to throwing like 33% of candidates to the bin, even though they are matching your expectations. Yeah, I know that it's strange and it costs a lot, trust me. So what can we do in such a case? Like, what can we obtain, or how we can obtain it? So the same flow. The same flow means that It will be, it will help us to, like the same flow would help us to not to talk about strawberry fields with the candidates during the interview, or you can talk about it, but like for 2 minutes, and then you will just continue with your questions to make sure that you will check it accordingly. But for sure, just stick to one flow. One flow, you check like some basic competences you wish, and it's going to be fine, because once you've got the same flow with each and every candidate, you will be able to evaluate later on whether you want to hire this person or no. That's okay, we've got the same flow. Then same number of meetings. There is such a thing in psychology like mere exposure effect. So people have this, they tend to develop actually a preference for things merely just because they are familiar with them. What is, well, actually I've got another example in my head. One example of a person who just started to work for in one of most, well, I would say that it's quite a known company in Poland. So she, because it was her, so she had 5 interviews with hiring managers, whilst other candidates had only 3. She was the one who got the job. Surprise? Not really. Just because she had the same qualifications, she had the same experience, but she saw the manager twice more than other candidates. And the candidate, well, maybe that was a coincidence, but to be honest, do we really take into considerations coincidence in such cases? Well, I wouldn't say so. Offline, online meetings. Well, that's another mistake which I love, because I made this one quite a lot of times. So whenever candidates was saying, yeah, let's grab a coffee instead of meeting online. Why not? Great. Is it really? Well, it depends. But in most of the cases, as we have to make sure that we have aligned and unified process, it's not the best idea. Why? Well, if we have candidates who are, well, candidates or clients as you prefer, you meet them online, all of them, but one of them just want to grab a coffee with you. Which of them will be most probably establishing some relations with you and contracts? Most probably the one you saw offline. And why is it the case? Or why is it the case with the candidates? Apparently, we appreciate the efforts and the fact that the distance is shorter and that we can shake someone's hand, especially right now after COVID. And we've got this tendency with this proximity bias to start to hire such candidates, or to just build cooperation with such clients. Right. Well, let's move on. I asked you at the beginning to try to remember at least 3 takeaways. Hope that you are able to list even more. And what I wanted also to say is that I'm really curious, like, which of them you are going to take with you, maybe for the next future recruitment processes. My goal today was not really to concentrate on making sure that the process will be excellent. Process excellence is not my cup of tea. I wanted to make sure that you will not waste your money in vain for the things which don't really make sense anymore. And what else? Well, you've got 6 mistakes listed here. I just wanted to make sure that you will be aware of some small little things today, and just because the awareness is like the first step to change. So that will be all from my end. I also added some resources in case if you would like to know where I took all these details and numbers from. Thank you very much for today.